Good evening, everybody. Hello, hello. Welcome to another Zoom. We haven't been on Zoom in a while. We've been out in these streets, so.
Oh, y'all been in person a
Welcome,
lot?
yeah, most classes I've been in person. I think we've done 3 virtual this year. I think it was with you and Keto did one. So this is the 3rd one.
Ooh.
Yeah. It's cool though. We like sitting down a little bit sometimes. So
Yeah, and slideshow easier like that.
exactly.
Hey,
How's
everybody.
everyone this evening? We are gonna get started real soon. This is Accessing and Purchasing Land in Detroit with T, our Director of Urban Agriculture. She's going to give you the ins and outs of getting land. So take notes, ask questions. If you do have any questions, you can pop them in the chat and I'll make sure they get to T. If it's something that's really pressing, T, do you mind if they jump in?
Absolutely not. I think we got a small crowd, right? I think that's totally fine.
Yeah, right now it's climbing, but
okay.
But yeah, we'll control that, monitor that as as needed. So.
Oh, yeah, we're getting there. I was in.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Tracy.
How do I?
I was looking on my other tab and didn't see the room filling it. There we go.
Here it is. Now, did I unmute? No. I don't know how to unmute. Oh, I did?
Yes. We hear and see you.
Hi.
Hello.
I can't stay for the meeting because the people that were supposed to help me build my fence didn't show, and the plants that I put in my raised bed, someone stole out of. So yeah, so I left my son digging post holes, but I wanted to log in because I got a ton of questions and I want to know, are we going to do this again? Will there be another Zoom like this?
Not this season, but the Zoom will be available on our YouTube. And any questions you have, like if you can't ask them this evening, you can send them to me. And Tia is going to share her email as well. And you can email T directly. But any questions you have, you can put it in the chat and I can get it to her. But this will be on our Zoom.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I just don't want to, I had questions about the creative project process, and is there a way to get the land without going through them this time around? Because their process is so long that now I have to apply for an extension, and it's just been crazy. Like the city still owns the land and I can't do anything with it. So as I'm waiting on Creative Project to do the things, everything they've done has been so incredibly slow. And I hope I'm not blasting someone who's on the Zoom because I don't intend to. I'm speaking to my personal experience with this, and I got the emails to back it up. So
speak your truth.
Are there other ways, like because as a 2020 awardee, Creative Project wasn't even, a thing then. So I just went straight through whatever the 2020 process was. So I'm wondering, is there a similar process or do I have to go through Creative Project?
There are a few different processes. You can go through the same process you went through. It's going to cost more money, so that's a benefit. But the thing is, generally, the title clearance process takes a long time, and that's kind of where things get stuck. So the special programs like Side Lot and Neighborhood Lot, they clear the title before they basically put it on the market, right?
Yeah.
The other programs, what outside of like sometimes misfires in communication between your project manager at DLBA and sometimes that happens, but for the most part, it's like waiting on the title clearance process, which everything's got to go through the judge and it gets bottlenecked. So I know that can be a lengthy process, but we can definitely check in on your particular case with the folks and see what's going on. And I have some tips for folks.
I'm also experiencing dumping on that land too. And I was like, well, I told the city about that. I was hoping that they would cut the grass and clear the dumping before while they're clearing the title. I don't want that to become my bill, because the city the grass is 3 or 4 feet tall right now. We got deer coming in that you can't even see them until they step into the cut area where I cut, to my area. So I'm concerned about, of course, deer ticks. We've got a lot of kids that play on that block because it's a cul-de-sac and there's a school and a park at the foot of the block. And so I got so many concerns about that. So hopefully Create a Project can push this through and the city will come and clean it up. And so my last very quick question is, because I haven't, the title hasn't cleared and I haven't been able to complete my project from last year, does that impede me from my application this year? Where'd I go? What happened?
Yes, it does, unfortunately.
So I can't apply this year. Can I apply for infrastructure?
If you're in the middle of the process, but let's do this. Since we got the call, I can follow up with you one-on-one about this particular case and we can try to figure out where it's at and what's going on. If that's okay.
Yeah, no, that
you got to jump off.
Yep, that'd be great. All right, then I'm gonna go back up and finish digging post holes. Y'all, they're gonna make me strong. They're gonna make me strong. And so if I can't apply, then I guess I don't know. We'll work something. Because I already started my application, so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I didn't know. So, all right, yes, please reach out to me. Because I got questions, and I'm glad to know that this will be recorded and be on YouTube. I can't wait to watch it. Peace and love, you guys. Thank you so much.
Okay, peace.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
All right. Bye. All right, T, you ready to jump in on this presentation?
I am. Are you ready for it?
I am.
Let's get it. All right.
All
I think, we're climbed up a little bit, but however you want to facilitate questions, we definitely want to get as many answered as possible.
Okay, everyone just drop your questions in the chat and we'll get around to them, okay? All right, T, take it away.
Okay. Naja, are you able to share the slides with Patrice so that she can help with the links?
Yes, yep, I can do that.
Okay, I think you're an editor in there, but I'll go ahead and get started. Safira Rushton, a lot of people call me T. I'm happy to be here with you today. I want to make sure that we do what we can to get as many people through the process of purchasing land that want to in the city. And I know off the rip, I'll just say I know that it can be a lengthy process. I know that it can be a hard process, and so that's why we're here to talk about it today. So I'll get into it. There's a number of links in this PowerPoint that I want to share with you. And so this first link is a guide to acquiring land, which walks through each of these processes. So this is kind of the process from start to finish. And we'll go through each of these steps individually, but we're going to start with site selection, picking a good site for yourself. And then the decision of ownership versus lease, we're going to talk about that. But once you have decided to own property, then we need to figure out who owns the particular parcel that you're interested in. We'll talk about the acquisition process and the closing process once you get through it. How to record your deed, how to get through the compliance period with the Detroit Land Bank, and how to change the land use to agriculture. So we're going to talk about all these things, but I just wanted to give you a high level view of what we were going to be going in. And so Patrice, if you're on the call, if you can click that link and put it in the chat for folks when you can.
Will do.
Thanks so much. All right, so yeah, this is where I pretty much start with everyone that I talk to. If you have not identified land that you want to purchase yet, and you're just kind of like, I got an idea, I want to let me admit these people. I want to I know I want to do a farm. I don't want to purchase some land. Where do I get started? I always tell people to start where they have connections. So start in a neighborhood either you already live in or you used to live in. That's going to make it all the more easier as you go through the process to have eyes and ears. If you aren't able to do that, this is a great tool. It's the Detroit Land Bank All Listings Map. Their map is in a little bit of, their website is in a little bit of a state of, they're in the process of strategic planning. So they're mixing up their map and their website all the time. But I've linked the map here. So again, Patrice, if you can put the link to the map right there in the chat for folks. It's a great tool because you'll see here that you can actually toggle off all the properties that are houses and just look at vacant land. And then it breaks down the type of properties that are available. So side lot, neighborhood lot, oversized lot, market lot. We'll talk about all these and what they mean if you don't know, but just wanted to point that out that this is a really good tool. Other things to consider when selecting a site. I mentioned, do you have a connection to the neighborhood? Also think about what used to be on the site. That could matter greatly, how the neighbors use it today. So the first community garden that I started, there was one of those like embedded pathways through the lot. And that is where all the neighbors would cross from one block to the other, right? And so I took that in consideration in my design and made it to where that was just a permanent path in my garden. So things like that. How is it being used today? Maybe neighbors are, using it for parties in the summer or something like that. You want to know these things before you go ahead and pursue ownership. Yeah, I talked about the footpaths, tire tracks. Do you see tire tracks? That means somebody's utilizing it. Are there any other gardens in the area that you can connect with? And then definitely, if you are not a part of the block club already, make sure you know the block clubs and connect to the organizations that are around them and talk to your neighbors. That is going to be your first step, line of defense, is making sure that your neighbors are keeping an eye out on your garden as well. So, yeah, I'm going to keep going. So then just in terms of like the actual acquisition process, there are a few other things to keep in mind. We're going to go over like how to figure out the address, how many lots. Is it actually, sometimes lots look like one lot and maybe it's two lots. So let's get on a map and figure that out, and we'll do that together today. Who owns it? We talked about that. So we're going to do that together. You really want to consider how the property is zoned. We'll get in the tool together, but residential lots are definitely going to be easier to purchase for agriculture than commercial property. So that's just something to keep in mind. Not to say that it's impossible if you're got your heart set on a commercial property, but it's a little bit harder. And generally, I would say the use in a commercial property, the history of the use might be a little harder than a residential area. So in terms of soil contamination and things like that, a different consideration in commercial property. Yeah, is it for sale? We would look on that all listings map and pull up, is it for sale? Are there any other developments planned for the area? So these are questions that you just want to ask yourself and keep in mind as you're going through the process. Yeah, we talked about a little bit of this, getting an ideal site. So I'm not going to go too far into it, but I would say the very most important thing on here is to get a soil test. for the property. So you know what you're dealing with, and you can get that with Keep Growing Detroit. Um, I think that I have um, I think I have the link here. Um, Patrice, if you can drop that link. I think that link is still valid. Naja, I think I tagged you in this earlier this week to make sure that that soil testing.
Yeah, job is still valid.
Okay. Yep. So if you want to sign up for a soil test with Keep Growing Detroit, you're going to click that link and sign up. That's how you sign up. This is me on the first community garden that I started out in the field doing my soil test. Just to keep in mind, if you haven't done a soil test before, I know we got people on all different levels on the call. So if you're brand new to gardening, you haven't done a soil test before, the soil test that Keep Growing Detroit does is about it covers a 30 by 30 area. And so keeping that in mind, typically when I go out and support somebody with a soil test, I'm thinking what used to be the front yard, what used to be the house, and what used to be the backyard, because oftentimes different things were happening in those areas. Maybe the house went into the ground instead of being totally excavated like it was supposed to. Maybe somebody was parking on the backyard. So typically I try to stay in those zones. So, on an average lot that's 100 by 30, to get the whole composition, you're going to need 3 tests. Or you might know, really, I just want to grow in the front, and in the back, I'm going to do a fire pit or something like that. So just keep that in mind, the different zones. So let's pause and do a quick question. So we went through like selecting a site. So just say these are sites that are on your block, and you are looking to start a community garden. Please pop in the chat some information that you see about picture number 1. This is a lot down the street. What are you going to make an observation? What are you thinking is happening on that lot? Let's see. What do you see on that lot? Yes, yep, Mia's on it. Somebody driving on it. There's a car parked there. So the neighbors are using it. Yep, all good observations. Lots of trees. Yep, you see the soil has already kind of degraded in this area right here. So something to keep in mind. Yep, very compacted soil. So yeah, Judy was on it. Let's look at slide 2. What do you think, what do we think about this? Yes, Ellie said, yeah, they might have gatherings there. It looks kind of well kept, right? Any other thoughts about that? Looks like somebody intentionally put those logs out there to stop. So somebody's taking care of that lot. So before I would go for lot 2, I would do some observations. Who's taking care of that? Or how are they going to feel about you purchasing it? So yeah, that's something I would observe. How lawn looks mowed. Yep, Eduardo's on it. So what do we think about picture number 3? What are some observations that come to mind for picture number 3 for people? Lots of trees, right? That means lots of shade. You can see the shade line right there. Also something, you might like this, something that it's mowed. Yep. You might like this, but it does block your line of vision. So, so yeah, if if you're out there, things could be creeping in the trees. I kind of like to keep my line of vision open, but you might like a kind of surrounded area. So just something to, kind of trigger your mind around, what are we looking at? What's an ideal site? Yeah, it could potentially be fenced once it's owned. I like that. All right, so there's all different kind of land security types, I say. So, when I first started out gardening in the city, a lot of people were doing guerrilla gardening. That's just where you set up camp. You don't own it, you just start a garden on it. We call that land insecure because at any moment, a developer or another person can kick you off of that property, right? Because you have no ownership. And so while at the time in the city, I had started gardening about 15 years ago, so that was acceptable. There wasn't a lot of competition for land. As Detroit is, starting its resurgence path, I think we started to see more competition. We started to see more developers. We saw developers actually, purchasing from under people. And we really started getting serious about making sure that people were going toward being more land secure. So here's some of the things that you have to think about with your group and what makes sense for your group. So you could get, oral permission or written permission from a landowner. So this could be good if you have, say you have a church and they have a lot that they own and you have a permission to garden there, totally fine. Maybe you don't want to go through the formal process of owning property. You could set up a formal lease agreement with someone. This is where you would lay out terms. I get to use this property for 5 years. It's written on paper. This is a formal lease agreement. And then, what we're talking about today is actual property ownership. And this is, edging toward the most secure property type. And then once you go ahead and get the property ownership and you have a permit to do a garden there, you are in the most secure category. So let's talk about it a little bit more. All right, so we talked about this guerrilla gardening. There are pros and cons, right? It's simple, it's inexpensive, but you can lose it at any time. Oral permission is simple, it's inexpensive, but there's no record of it. There's a lot of assumption of risk. I would consider putting that agreement on paper. And once you do that, you have a formal lease agreement, which should spell out the terms that you guys have decided on. And that's, just a little bit more secure than just kind of an oral conversation with somebody, right? So I'm gonna flag that. All right, property ownership. This is, I definitely, because property is still on the cheaper side in Detroit, I definitely push people to this, but I do want people to understand their inherent responsibility that comes with property ownership. And so I don't want you to be blindsided about this. And you might decide this is not for your group because you're not at the capacity to handle this responsibility, right? So things to keep in note that you will have to pay taxes on there, you know what I'm saying? And so it's something to keep in mind. That, I usually am seeing tax bills, $20 to $30 a lot. So if you have 5 lots, that can kind of add up, right? You will become responsible if there's dumping on the lot. You're the owner. The city isn't the owner. If somebody's dumping on it, you're responsible for it. Sometimes the city will come out and do it just because they don't want blight in the area, but technically you are responsible for it. So just something to note. You are responsible for somebody tripping and falling, it may not be a bad idea to get some form of liability insurance or maybe back your business up in an LLC. It's something to keep in mind. When you go into a formal purchase agreement with the city or anyone else, you are responsible for making sure that the title is clear so that nobody else can claim ownership of your property. And you're responsible for understanding how to be in compliance with the city, with our ordinances, right? All right, so kind of the first step, if you do decide that ownership is for you and your community, or the folks that you're working with, you want to figure out, who owns the property. And these are the two tools I use the most, or 3 tools that I use the most. This is the Detroit Development Detroit Opportunities. So that's their parcel map. I like to use Regrid quite a bit. Patrice, if you wouldn't mind helping me and putting these links in the chat for people. And then the ultimate knower and way to know who owns is the treasurer office, because they're who, they're keep the tax record. So who's ever paying the taxes is the person who owns it. So let's look at some of these. This is the development map, and I'll keep going. I won't necessarily jump in here, but sometimes I'll jump in there. But you definitely just put your property in there and begin to search all around. This is my favorite, Regrid. I took this snapshot, I think about a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago now. I just want to take a note for, just for posterity's sake, that look how much land the land bank owns and the city together. A lot of people, I think we all drive through the neighborhoods and see this, but to see just the sheer amount of land that is owned by the city is pretty amazing. And then look at the third largest property owner is the Hands Farms over on the east side. That's pretty remarkable. So this is a really cool tool because you can zero in and you can actually see the parcel lines. And it really clearly defines, how many lots are in an area. Um, so yeah, I really like this tool. I even got a subscription to it. It's like $10 a month, I think. Um, so yeah, Wayne County Treasurer, again, this is the bottom line. So you'll put the street number and the street name in there. And you should be able to see who is paying the tax records. So if it's not the land bank and it's a private owner, you'd be able to like reverse search who the person is who's paying the taxes, right? One little trick about the Wayne County treasurers, this is where you pay your taxes online. If you just simply put like the number 1 and the street name, you'll get a listing of all the property owners on the 1000 block of that street. So say you don't know the address, it will give you a complete list. So that's cool trick. All right, we mentioned doing a reverse lookup in the register of deeds. All right, this is gonna get thick, so before we jump totally in, I just wanna check in with Naja. Is there any questions that I should pause and take note of? Okay.
There are a few questions. Let's see. Where do we start? Give me one moment. So there was a question about starting a block club.
Yeah, I
So,
put that in. Put the link in it.
Okay. So the link is
Okay.
in the chat for that question. Then someone asked, do we have to keep the lot public to qualify for the fund? So that was from Lay.
Yeah, that's a good question. It depends on what funds you're talking about. I'm assuming you're talking about the neighborhood beautification program. That is a specific program with the city. And I do believe that in order to qualify for that program, don't miss, I hope I'm not misquoting them. I'll go and double check this, but I do believe that you have to be a 501c3 to qualify for that program or a block club. And so that means that, you have to make that determination. But there's all kind of other funds. I will talk about the Black Farmer Land Fund later in the slideshow. That is not restricted by ownership. So it kind of depends on which funding opportunity you're thinking about. And then I see Sandra's question. If you combine the lots, will the taxes be reduced? I don't typically see a reduction in taxes, although it'll bring them all into one bill, so it's a little bit easier for you. But if you have seen something different, let me know. But yeah. Okay. I just wanted to take a quick pause. Naja, feel free to cut me off.
I put a beautification program link in the chat, y'all, so y'all can see what the requirements are for that.
Thank you so much. All right, so back in the day, it was really difficult. I would say that for all of our gripes about the land bank, before the land bank was in existence, it was very difficult to figure out who actually owned the property, and each entity that owned the property had a different process. With the creation of the land bank, and they've created different programs, that is a step up from where we were back in the day. So you saw on that map, they own the vast majority of vacant lots in the city. But you'll still see some that are owned by different departments. So that would be, some are owned by planning and development, particularly any commercial property is still owned by PD&D. So all commercial properties went to planning and development, and all residential properties went to land bank. In that process, I've seen random residential lots that were still in planning and development. So you have little things like that that will happen. But that it is the same application for the planning department or the land bank. And then, every blue moon, and particularly like in Highland Park and Hamtramck, I see Wayne County Treasury owned property. And here's the link to get to that auction. There's a Wayne County Land Bank. Again, I see a lot of those in Highland Park. But there's the link if you want to find those. Highland Park is this whole own world. So if you need support with that, we're still working on a lot of those. It's a different process. The city of Highland Park is usually doing 500 for a residential side lot and 1,000 for a vacant commercial. Every once in a while, I do see little slivers of property that are owned by the Parks and Rec. If that does happen to you, there is really no clear ownership path. I have seen them lease. I've seen them sell one time. But that's not the ideal path that you want to take. And then, of course, it could be owned by a private landowner, in which case, I would definitely try to consult with a lawyer to get the contract lined up. But the vast majority are owned by the land bank, so I'm gonna spend some time with that. And I think by now, most people know their kind of land flagship program, the side lot program. And they really have done a great job of moving a lot of inventory out by allowing neighbors to purchase the surrounding lots around them. So you see the outline there on each side. As long as a part of the house is touching your property, you should be able to purchase it for $100. So that's a deal of a lifetime. Go get it now if you don't. The process to purchase side lots. You know what? I am gonna just go over and show you this one because I do want to show you this. If you don't know this process. Sorry, you go to the land bank website, and if it's a side lot or a neighborhood lot, you can purchase them right on the website. Okay. Again, the names and titles of the website kind of moves around a little bit, but find your way to side lots. So both side lots and neighborhoods have this feature where you can just go online, view listings, and you would just literally put your address in here, and it'll pop up all of the properties that are side lots, and you can purchase them right online. And that also holds true for the neighborhood lots. The neighborhood lots are 250, and that's my next slide. So let me get back here. Neighborhood lots are 250. And that increases the adjacency. So these are houses that are within 500 feet. And you can purchase it right on the land bank website by entering your address. You'll set up a land bank account and you should be able to purchase right there. All right. So this was what Tracy was talking about, the Creator Project, which is a relatively new program. It's about 2 years old now. It's also 250 lots, up to 4 lots, 4 community groups. And so this is for people who want to do different projects. It could be a garden, it could be a play space. And there is really no adjacency requirements. The requirements is that you do something productive with the land. And so this is really for community groups, ideally nonprofits or block clubs to beautify lots. Another caveat of the Creator Project, if you're a hardcore gardener, is that you cannot do structures within the first 3 years of purchase because this is supposed to be a beautification program. And so the idea is that you can't do structures and be in compliance for 3 years. So if you had plans on doing a tiny home, you may want to go through a different purchase path. All right. Oh, if you can put Patrice, if you can put the link to create a project application in the chat. Yeah, I was on the last slide. So the vast majority of people that I support go through the projects portal, and this is just the um, regular purchase process for the city and for the planning development department. Um, so just a couple notes about this program. Patrice, if you would help me one more time and get that property application into the chat for them. And before you apply, there's some pieces of documentation that you're gonna need. You'll need a plot plan. And so we'll talk about what that is, but it's basically a rough drawing of your idea and your design. You'll need a budget and you'll need proof of funds for the project. So before you even jump into the application, make sure you have those 3 pieces of items. So that means I'll go through plot plan and budget. Proof of funds could be literally a bank statement that says you have the amount to cover the purchase price and the amount to make all the improvements that you want to make on the lot. That also could be a grant letter, letting them know you have the appropriate funds to purchase. On there, you'll be asked for, they will ask you, what do you want to pay for the lot? And so, people ask me all the time, what is an appropriate price to give them? So, I would, looking at the area, I think we all kind of know the areas in Detroit that are higher end. And if you're in kind of a regular neighborhood, I am seeing prices of, about 1,000, 1,200 a lot, somewhere in there. And then agriculture projects are usually seeing a 50% discount. So there's something to keep in mind when you're making your offer. You're going to go ahead and pop that application up. When you apply, you will get an ID number back. So, maybe take a picture of that ID number, because you can also go right in that application and put the ID number in there and get a status update. It's not the best status update, but at least you'll see something that they have received it, or it's in this step of the process. This process, just to level set and make sure we're all on the same page, can take some time. It can take 4 to 8 months. If you're getting antsy, I know as a gardener, you're like, hey, it's about to be winter. I want to know what's going on with that lot. Feel free to reach out to our offices here, and we can support and try to make a connection to see if it possibly got stuck in one of the channels that it inevitably can get stuck in. Yeah, once you go through all the internal approvals, you would receive a purchase agreement. I advise you to read it very carefully. I even do consultations, sometimes set up consultations with lawyers to make sure you read it and you understand the language, because they are adding your compliance period inside your purchase agreement. So inside the purchase agreement, it'll say, we need you to make updates every 2 months, and it'll have a schedule. It'll also likely require you to change the land use. We'll talk about that a little bit more detail if you haven't heard that term. And even sometimes I have seen errors in people's purchase agreements. So I've seen people literally buy 5 lots and there's only 3 addresses on there. So review your documents before you sign. If there's any issues, send it back and forth with your project manager there. Yep. They'll typically ask for an earnest deposit, and it's I think that's usually about $500. And then it'll go to the board for final review. And once it goes to the final review, you will start your closing process. Did I say 50%? I'm sorry. Ag projects get 20%, and community partnerships get 50%. I'm sorry, I said that wrong. So let the record reflect. All right. And then you're going to be entering into your compliance period. I'm gonna pause for 2 seconds and make sure that we're all together to go to the next page. Is there any questions, Naja, or are we good? Oh, Andrew?
Hello, can you just make sure if y'all can hear me?
I can hear you.
Awesome. So I do have a question. Um, with the land bank, I do have trouble sometimes with them. I work for the city, by the way, so I know actually what's behind the scene with everything. And it's just I try to get this land a couple times. They always say it's not for sale, but the Eastern market always go right behind me and give it to me. So how do I avoid them type of situations?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I think a couple slides back, I had, there's a planning map. And usually if you just sit down and talk with the project manager at the land bank, there's also, I'll put a link in here for the land-based projects. There's opportunities to interact with the land bank and get their attention, but once you do, I would, ask about any holds that are in the area. We know that there's particular places where the city wants to develop, or they have a partner that wants to develop. So we know that uh, that there's all the zoning that's happening around Eastern Market. There's also like a big project in Brightmoor with DWSD. So there's areas that the city can put a hold on. And so the land bank, literally their hands are tied in terms of selling it to you. So understanding there's a map of those review areas that is on the land bank website. So kind of understanding if there's a hold in your area, you could even talk to that city department. If there's a hold from the water department, you can, if you're got your heart set on that property, you can call the water department and ask them if they know, when that hold is coming off. Maybe they have a particular project. There's been times where I've seen things be put on hold in error. So, it's a possibility that that hold can be removed too. So,
So Uh, and yeah, I do know about the hose. So when I talk to the land bank, they'll tell me it's not the reason why my application got what is the word they use? Disqualified is because they say it's not for sale. But even when people with side lots in that area, they still tell them they can't get them because they're not for sale. And across from them, they can't get it because it's not for sale. But they give it to the Eastern market. So
yeah,
is that a fair deal, or
yeah.
because that's what I was confused about, because I thought we can do side lots and adjacent lots.
Yeah, and let me pull up that map so it's clear. But there are, I mean, the land bank is in itself, a realtor of sorts, and so they don't have to allow you to purchase. So if they're saying like
Okay,
you can't purchase, it's because there's some planned project over there, whether it's visible or not. Um,
okay,
and it's happened, and even down to the program. Like I've seen certain areas that don't have neighborhood lots in there, and so they kind of
right,
force you to go to the more expensive projects portals. And I don't know exactly why. I know that,
okay,
like I said, I know. So, in those cases, that's when I would, Andrew, if you have a specific, lot that you're looking at, I'm happy to try to look into it. Also, I don't know what department you work for. I'm happy to help navigate and see what's the problem.
mhm.
But I know that's frustrating, and I'm sorry.
It is frustrating. I just want to make sure I'll be able to get some land this year at least, so I
Yeah,
can start everything I'm looking for to start. So that's my main goal, is just to make sure I can get the land.
yeah, yeah. Oh, I understand. And so then you may have to turn your attention to another neighborhood, unfortunately. Um, and I know that sucks because, you want to do your operation as close to your house probably as possible.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're in a bit of a pickle, but again, let's connect afterwards and I could do my due diligence to try to track it down as well. Um,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank
Um,
you.
yeah, you're more than welcome. All right, I'll keep going unless there's other questions.
You have quite a few questions,
Oh,
actually.
okay, thought
Someone
thought.
has a lot, so we'll get some of them, but we'll come back as well. There was a question about, I guess with the beautification project, someone asked about if they can um, fence in or use a gate. Is that allowed in that project?
I think that's okay, but I will double check that.
Okay.
And if you can, help me communicate with that person, maybe I'll send it to you.
Okay, and then that was Priscilla Appling. So Priscilla, if you want to drop your email, we can follow up with you about that.
Okay,
And
yes,
Peter,
thank you so much.
yes, you're welcome. There's a question about how long does the final review take after the deposits?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
The final review, how long does that take after the deposit?
Man, it can vary honestly, and here's where it's helpful to have you know reach out to the city and people that and I trust me, I wish that we didn't have to be a city where you have to know somebody, right? That's the goal, is to get us in a place where everything can be clear. But here we are. I have seen it go really quickly. I have seen people put their deposit and it turn around, month, maybe month and a half. And then Patrice, who's on the call right now, can attest that it took you a year to get to closing, if not more. Um, and if you find it taking longer, that's when I would reach out either to here at the Office of Sustainability, we do support this work, or reach out. There's a link. I want to put it at the last slide. But there's a land-based projects office hours, and it's every first Thursday. I will try to make sure I pull up the QR code. That is a place where the land bank, there's reps there from the land bank, DC, the water department, planning and development. All these folks come into one room to answer questions from people. So if you find yourself kind of stuck in the process, it's taking too long, that's when I would reach out and kind of get on their head. Yeah. I don't know if I got that email that you had put in. Let's see.
All right, Mia Willis has about 6 questions, so we're gonna come back to that. That's gonna take a minute to unpack. And let's see, anything else we can address right now? Okay, that's one side of me where okay, yes, we covered that, Sharon, so we'll come back to that. You'll receive this slide as well. So yes, there is a way you can access the land next to you. So we'll come back to that. And if I want additional side lots in the area, do I have to be closed on current plots? That's from Karen Bennett. So do they have to be closed before trying to get more lots?
Usually.
Yes, okay. All right. So we're like I said, we're gonna come back to Morgan Willis so you can ask all of your questions, okay? Because we're gonna keep moving on. We'll come back to that.
Yeah.
All
Yeah, I
right.
do want to say, I know that I know that our mayor definitely wants to move this vacant land, and here we are in this bureaucracy that we're trying to push through. So I just want to acknowledge that that's where we are. I told you that we would talk about the plot plan, and this is I just want to say it could be a crude drawing. Here's a guide. Patrice, if you wouldn't mind popping, Patrice or Nigel, if you could pop that link in here. And I saw somebody asking for access to the slide deck. We can figure that out, Nigel. We should make it maybe view only or something like that.
Yeah.
If you want to pop it in there, because there are a lot of helpful links.
Okay, yes, after the class, we'll send out a PDF version to everybody.
Okay. If it's PDF, will they still have access to the links?
So the links, yeah, the links are still active in PDF.
Okay.
They just can't
Okay.
edit it.
Okay, cool. Main thing with the plot plan, like I said, it can be hand drawn. You want to have measurements for the entire property. So you see these measurements, and also for the different things inside of there, like you have a bed that's 30 feet long. So you'll want to submit that. You can literally grab these off of a Google map, and I'm sure Nigel or myself could help you figure out that. There's like a drawing tool on Google Map where you can measure that out. Then tell me if anybody wants to do that together. We definitely can do that right now, but if that is if people are already using that, I won't take the time. Yeah, you'll want to identify any existing features. So you see here, it says existing trees, you'll put those on there, and then you'll layer on your different things. If you have multiple lots, definitely make that note. This is 1, 2, 3, 4. This is 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 5. Or whatever. I guess it would be 1, 2, 3, 6. Okay. Um, yep. Yeah. And here's a good note. Stay conservative, because remember that you need to show proof of funds for everything that you put on this map. So if you want to build a basketball court in the back of your garden, that's great and that's lofty, but you know that your bank account doesn't match that right now and you're waiting for a grant or something like that. I wouldn't put that on your plot plan. I would wait. I would put all the things on there that you think that you can reasonably do within the compliance period, which is usually a year or 2 years. So I hope that makes sense. And then I would just kind of have a baseline understanding for the setback requirements that are all in that plot plan. And so, for example, you'll see on this drawing here, you kind of need to have like a 5-foot setback. You see that 5 foot right there. I don't know if you can see my cursor, but you see how they have it set back 5 feet from the fence line. If you were to have trees, they have to be set back a certain amount. If you have a compost pile back here, it has to be set back a certain amount from the other property. So all of that is spelled out in this guide. So you would just kind of have a baseline understanding for what that's saying. And again, if pictures and drawings aren't your thing, myself, Patrice, or Naja can definitely help you set up some time and talk to you about that. And here's just a simple budget. If you aren't used to budgets, you'll want to list out, the items that you want to purchase, the amount that they are, and where you're getting it from. So, hopefully everybody on this call knows about the GRP membership, $30 for a community garden. Put that on there. You'll get your seeds and plants from the garden research program. You'll raise beds if you're going to do that. You know that you're going to get a water catchment system from that grant from the church. So you can make that a 0 line item. And here you are, you show your grand total. And this is what you're going to submit when you go through the purchase process. Now, we talked about side lots, we talked about neighborhood lots, we talked about create a project, and then we talked about the project portal. So that's 4 pathways to ownership. This is the 5th, okay? So there are on the DLBA website, Detroit Land Bank website, a bundle of properties called marketed properties. This is properties that they are actively trying to sell. So, they're not they're not waiting for you to come to them. They're actively trying to sell it. They sell it through a real estate company. And usually these are, 5 or 6 or 7 lots bundled together. So there's a list of those. And here's the link. I believe that link is good. The process is a little bit different for this particular pathway. If you do find something that you like, you'll be working with a real estate company instead of the Detroit Land Bank directly. And then there's a particular proposal. Why do I have create a project proposal? I don't think I meant to do that. I think that's an error. I think there's a particular proposal that you'll need to do, and there's some guidelines. I think that's the link if you're able to pop that link in the chat, but it's not. Doesn't look like it's live. Sorry about that, guys. Yeah, so there's no application. You're going to work directly with the realtor on these. But these are cool if you're like doing a different, like a larger scale project. Yep. All right. I just compiled a list of snags in the road, or why did I get stuck that I was aware of. Feel free to jump in if you know a reason that's not on here. But if they come back and they tell you that there's a demolition lien on the property, I would suggest that you wait it out. So they might tell you that like there's a lien on the property for $5,000 for the demolition that they did, and it expires in 2026, and you feel like chances are nobody else is going to buy that lot, I would wait it out, because then once the lien expires, you won't have to pay for it. So I hope that's clear. So if you try to purchase it now, you're gonna have to pay the $5,000 on top of the closing cost for the property. Yep, if eligible for a side lot, just know that, so say you are just purchasing a lot that's next to another house, just know that the land bank is gonna give the adjacent neighbors notification first, so they get first right of refusal. So, I found another error here. This can take some time, be patient, cross fingers. Something got edited out of there, sorry. But yeah, that can take some time because they actually do notify all the neighbors first. And I think that's a good practice because, you know, if you were living next to a lot, somebody purchased it, you would want to be notified first. I think that's a good practice, but it does take a little bit extra time in your purchase process for them to contact the neighbors and hear back. I think they give them 30 or 60 days or something to respond. I told you before, watch out for commercially zoned lots. I would definitely steer clear. That's just my advice, but some people have their mindset on a commercial rezone property for one reason or another. That will require you to do a special land use hearing. That's about $1,200, I think, right now. And so it's more time and more money. Not to say that it's impossible if you have your heart set on it, and I would definitely help you with it. And again, I told you, you know, a little bit more likelihood of contamination in the soil, so something to be mindful of. Something also that could take some time in your process. You submit a plot plan, and you did not look at the ordinance. So they will continue on what you're submitting. So for example, you know, you have your hoop house on there and you're waiting for an award, and so you haven't submitted the fund that you proof of funds for that. Or it's not, you know, set to code. Another example is the fruit trees. Some people may know about this rule, but in a residential area, you can't have more than 9 fruit trees unless you go through a special land use hearing. Again, that's just a special land use hearing. It doesn't need to be scary, but it is more time and more money. And the idea for that is that we don't have people setting up orchards in large orchards in a residential area without having a plan for, you know, pesticides and things like that. By the time you get more than 10 plus fruit trees, you may need to use pesticides. People want to know that what's being sprayed near the homes, and so that's the rationale behind it. So like again, I want to just say it's not impossible. It's just a little bit harder, so you should know that. Sometimes people get stuck gathering the plot plan or the budget. They get overwhelmed. I just want you to know that KGD, myself, we can help you through that process. So don't let that be something that stops you. Sometimes people miss their own emails, or the land bank misses emails, or we miss emails, and that shouldn't stop you. Oh, I went backwards. Sorry, let me go. Let me get out of here. I went the wrong way. And I actually need to grab my cord. I just saw the light getting dim, so I don't want it to go out on us. But I need to grab my cord right behind my desk. So I'm gonna just pause on that. Maybe for one quick second, if there are other questions, I can hear you, Naja, but I just need to grab my computer cord so it doesn't go out. Okay.
Couldn't hear me. I'm sorry, I couldn't hear me. I was on mute. The question was, if someone is renting, can they get the side lot next to the house they're renting?
Hmm.
That is such a good question. And I'm so glad you said that because I was remiss in saying that you must, in order to apply for the side lot program, you must be the owner and occupier of the home. So that would be a no, unfortunately, but you can go through a different pathway. So you could purchase it through the project portal. Again, you're gonna be buying it in market rate, so it's gonna be a little bit more than these programs, but that's not to say that it can't be done. So I was just going through kind of like did you have more questions, Naja, or you want me to keep going?
Yeah, there's a couple of more that kind of goes with this. So, Sharon was asking about alleyways. She's growing on some lots. I'm assuming you already own the lot, Sharon. She was saying like you can't purchase alleyways, but is there any type of regulations for the alleys?
Yeah, I mean, if you really want to utilize the alleyway, you can do a um, vacate right away permit. Let me look that up and try to put it in the chat on while we're in. Let me try to find that at the end, and I'll pop it in the chat. Sharon.
Okay. Let's see. Another one that we can jump on and we'll keep moving is the change of use during is it best to do the change of use during the process or wait until she has ownership?
Good question. Good question. I would love if we could do it all together. In fact, that's what I'm advocating for. But unfortunately, you do have to wait till you own the property and then you change the use, I do believe. I will double check with that. In fact, me and Patrice are meeting with BC next week, I mean, later this week. I think that's the process, but I don't want to tell you wrong. If I find out something different, Naja, I will let you know and you can help me get that message. I do believe you have to own it first.
Okay, we're gonna do two more questions and keep going. So this is for farms only. If someone is asking about an ATV park, is that something possible? So
Yeah, if you want to own land for that, I would definitely do uh, it's a PPR. It stands for preliminary plan review. So if you want to do any project, that's larger than like a community garden or something like that, some people are doing like big, tree forest situations or things like that. I would definitely go to BC so you can understand where they're going to tell you no, where they're going to tell you yes, and what permits you can get and all of that stuff before you get too far down the line. I will definitely, in fact, Patrice, if you don't mind, just looking up the preliminary plan review, there's a link online. And if you could put that in the chat for that person.
Okay.
all right,
Thank
and
you so
last
much.
question before we keep moving. If they don't get the land that they applied for, can they use the same plan for a different lot?
Yes. Yep. I mean, you want to, if there's a big tree on that lot, you'll add that on there, but yes, you definitely can. Yeah. And you want to make sure it's the same size and all of that, but yeah. So I was kind of going through this list when I almost lost power there. I talked about like making sure you're on your email communication, making sure the land bank is on their communication. I would definitely stay persistent, get in the habit of contacting them. If they don't contact you, contact them, pester, bug, all of those things. Um, I mentioned to Tracy earlier in this call, if you were listening, that sometimes people run into title or tax problems. And so uh, if this is an actual thing, Detroit is a really hard, actually, you have all this vacant land, but it's a really hard real estate market because we have had so much foreclosure. And so sometimes people come back and contest the property that they have some kind of ownership. So say, say God forbid say God forbid I left my property to my son and then my daughter want to come and contest it. But my son had already sold it. So my daughter could technically say, well, you know, and so you have all these title issues, right? That come up, right? And so sometimes when the land bank is doing a title search, which is one of the things that they'll require right now, the title search, they'll look in the chain of custody and they'll find something that they can't quite see who owned it at one point, or something is broken in the chain of custody from one owner to the next. And so they will suggest that you get that you will get title insurance, or they will also maybe tell you to quiet title. Once they do that, that can take some time to quiet title. So sometimes these are the snags that you just literally is a part of like purchasing real estate. And I mentioned the project hold areas with Andrew's conversation. Oh, here's the map. Boom. Okay. Yeah, if you didn't go to the land bank website and see the map, you can see this map is a little bit old, so I think they updated. You see, this is from 2023 January. But you see the brown project hold areas. So unfortunately, if you're in some of these areas, they're just not going to sell it to you because that's their policy, right? So if it's a city project hold area, you won't be able to purchase side lots. No. Here, if it's one of these inclusive housing or job amenities development, you won't be able to purchase neighborhood lots. Okay. And this is how they're making this decision based off of these. But like I said, sometimes you can talk to the department and get it cleared sometimes, but it's something to be aware of. All right.
Wow.
Yeah, right? Somebody said, wow.
Yeah, I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
I've been here for 20 years,
Mm-hmm.
going on 20 years. And when I came here, it was just wooded, mouse infested, rat infested type of stuff. And me and the kids were running around on vacant rooftops, and they were getting ready to fall through them. And they have anything to do because that's what they was used to doing around here because it was so ignored for God ever on the east side. And so I grabbed the boys and we started a gardening club. And we cleared out, we spurred these 2.5 long blocks because no one even ever imagined that it could be anything. And me and the boys, they learned how to grow. And that's when I was had just found out about Keep Growing Detroit and got involved and yada, yada. Now, we chopped down trees. They took years to even clear it out. And those properties there behind our house it's clear. It's no trees or anything anymore because it's been years of us just chopping away at it, right? Behind our house. And they have people's name in, like, one of them says New England. I don't believe the woman's probably dead in her grave. And I believe they use these names so that you can't get the property, so that if they wanted to do a development, they could. But it's been 20 years and they haven't. And we've still been maintaining these properties all these decades because we just got tired of looking at it.
So are you trying to get the property from them? Is that what's happening here?
Yes,
like
we wanted the property behind our house that we worked on. I mean, it was just all ratted up.
Have you
woods.
applied and went through like the process of trying to, get with the owners and talk with the city to see what's going on?
These owners to me are ghost people. Who are they? Nobody's ever seen them. Nobody's ever heard from them. One lady says she lived from New England. Some of the people are dead. I mean, come on. It's just, I believe that because this one little 2-block thing, the over the years, the property is people have built houses and it looks nice over here. And so I think it's just being blocked in case they can ever do another development.
Yeah.
You know how they clear title. So they, like, if they want to clear title, they can clear the title. They just get to go to city council, clear the title, and then they build whatever they want. And I see stuff has been built recently. So I'm just wondering, how do they get to do those things? These
Yeah.
whoever is building, like they just built it's like a whole multi-unit.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have another question too that's kind of related to yours, it looks like. So I guess this is related to being a deceased owner. If you can't get in touch with the owner, how do you obtain the land? So we can jump on both of those questions at the same time.
Yeah.
Because I certainly have been advocating for this for 17 years.
So here you
And
go.
if we clean this place up, why,
Yeah,
if
there
we
is
stop cleaning the place up, it's going to turn to a rat's den again.
yeah.
So,
And
I
what
mean,
you're saying is like deeply on my heart. I've seen it in so many situations, and that's why I said, like, when we started this, when I started in ag, people were doing guerrilla gardens and you didn't really own it, but then here you go. Now people are purchasing underneath you, or it's going to a developer. And so this is why land security is so important to me, because I have heard this story. You put your blood, sweat, and tears into a property and you don't actually own it. And in fact, you don't have any legal rights, right? And so let's Cindy Lane, let me
yes,
yeah, I know you. I remember you, and if we can connect and I
from
can.
years and years and years ago.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So let's connect. I want to make sure if we can do anything to support you getting that property that you've been stewarding all this time, because we know there's a difference between stewarding land and actually legally owning it. So
Because
let's try to do
you
what we
can't
can
do
to help you.
anything. Yeah.
If the person is if the land is in a person's name who is deceased, uh,
I believe it's just a made up name.
yeah.
So some of them are made up names. Okay, they're not even, nobody's dead. We researched this like for 20 years. The people don't exist.
Okay, so that somebody's paying the taxes on it, because if it goes
Yeah,
3 years, just like your
they
house,
for a long time they
they're
didn't
gonna
pay the
go in
taxes. For a long
foreclosure.
time the taxes were not paid. But
Okay.
after a while, when they could see that the people who live over here were trying to get some of the properties, then they just put some weird old names. Like this woman who's supposed to be in New England. Come on now.
Yeah. Well, let me work with you one-on-one on that one. I'll keep going with the slides, and I'll work with you one-on-one. Naja, if you can make sure I have her email, we'll follow up. I might have your phone number in my phone. I'll try to find it. But
Probably, I'm sure you do.
okay, so just to get back a little bit, so we have make sure that whoever you purchase it from, you have your deed recorded with the Register of Deeds. Sometimes the land bank does this for you, and sometimes they don't. So I just tell people to make sure that they have gone through and done what you call a property transfer affidavit, to transfer the name, and that the deed is recorded, and then you
It's kind of,
transfer it into your own name. So that's one step. Sorry, I'm just getting back here. So we keep talking about this compliance period, and here's what it looks like within your contract, within your purchase agreement. This is an example where they have the person, 30 days, 90 days submitting, an update with pictures, what's going on, and you'll see that it's requiring for you to get a change of use with BSEED, BSEED Building Engineering Environmental Department. Those are the people who issue tickets. Those are people who, deal with the zoning aspects of your garden. And so, yeah, we want to keep them happy. So we're going to go ahead and get a formal permit with them, which is a change of use permit. We'll talk about that a little bit more on the next slide, but I just wanted to show you what that compliance period looks like. And most importantly, I wanted to make sure that I have this down because you see this term, reconveyance deed. That means that this purchase agreement is, they have a reconveyance deed where they can reconvey. That means they could take it back from you if you do not reach your compliance period. And so they can, if you aren't submitting your updates, if you don't do the change of use that you're agreeing to do, they have a deed already filed. They don't have to go through a legal proceeding to take the land back from you. So this is an important note. Stay on your compliance period. Okay, so we keep talking about this word. It's a very confusing word because it's used interchangeably with permit. Change of use is a type of permit. Change of use, change of land use. So we're changing the land use from residential to urban garden. And we have a whole permitting class that we've done. Do we do that in fall, Naja? I think, but so if you have specific details about the ordinance or city code, we did a whole class on that you can go back on, but just in short, here is the steps. Before you even get started, you will want to, caught another error here. You'll want to do a parcel revision form. So that is going to combine your property into one tax bill. That means that you don't have to do three. So say you have 3 lots, combine them all in one, and you won't have to do 3 different permits. You could do 1 permit for the 1 property. And here's my revision. I didn't catch this, but the permit cost used to be $150, it's now $171. So there's something to note. $271. Good news is that KGG has a great program and the city has a great program to support gardens. The city of Detroit is paying for nonprofit gardens to be permitted, and KGD is paying for all other gardens. So we're in partnership on that. So if you would like that assistance, please reach out to us and we can walk you through that process and also pay for it. Boom. But here's the formal process to do that. You'll go through the electronic license and permitting page. I made an account there if you want to do it yourself. And you'll apply for a permit. Just a few other, I didn't even finish writing this when me and you were talking, Naja, but we are now in year 5 of the Detroit Black Farmer Land Fund. I am not sure if July 29th is the actual deadline. I'm sorry, I was updating these slides in the final hour here. But please head over to DetroitBlackFarmer.com if you are interested in pursuing funding for land acquisition or infrastructure for your farm. And it's not just about getting the capital. They do give capital, but they also help you through the process. And that's some of the work that I've learned these things from is by going through the process with all of these gardeners. To date, we have gotten, I think, 70 people through the process. So let's hold hands and let's do it together. And I am Patrice is supporting over here with this. So if you have any questions, if you want to apply for change of use, or if you want technical support, here's Patrice's email. And then I mentioned what I started to write here was the first Thursday land-based projects meeting. Before we get off the phone, I will make sure that we put this QR code as there's probably a couple of questions in the chat. So while you're asking the questions, I will go find that QR code, unless you have it, Patrice, that QR code for the land-based projects meeting. Any questions, Naja?
There is one that just came in from Kyle. If your side lots you're gardening on are connected to a house, no need to change of use, but to combine the home would be good for tax purposes.
Good point.
And Andrew has, I'm on the land bank now, and now, oh, that wasn't a question. He's just confused. He's on the land bank website now. He's confused. So. Just play with it. You'll get it. That's a lot, but you'll navigate it. Yeah, that's it for now with the questions. Oh, hold on one
Amazing.
second. We have what is inclusive housing assets? Someone asked that. Kyle asked that again.
Oh, on that map, I'm not sure if I know. Hold on, let me see. Let me see what the words were. Inclusive housing. I'm not sure if I know right off the top of my head. But let me get the map. I have the definition on here. Inclusive housing opportunities. Let me look it up while we're talking. Oh, there's a whole inclusionary housing ordinance. Housing that is affordable to households earning, um, maybe it's, I don't know, Kyle. I can do some digging and figure that out, but, and report back. Inclusive. Sorry, I don't know that one. Yep. I'm looking for that QR code.
Me too, but I can't find it, unfortunately. I'm sorry.
No problem. It's right here.
But I'm Patrice, everybody. I'm gonna turn my video on real quick. If y'all have questions, I'm here as your urban ag director here. Alongside T. So if I can't answer it, we can both tag team and answer it. It's nice to meet y'all though.
Okay.
We have a question, or Mia White has her hand raised. You can go ahead with your question, Mia.
Hi.
Hey, Mia, how's it going?
It's going. I finally got my purchase agreement. It has been a process.
You can testify. Are you raising your hand to testify?
Oh, honestly, the marketed properties, oh Lord. Like,
Congratulations.
thank you.
Hip hip hooray.
Really though. I know, like, I just wanted to say, I have a bunch of questions, but I just wanted to say, when you were talking about things that, like, snags in the road, with my marketed property, the realtor was acting as a go-between between me and the land bank, and then he stopped communicating with both of us. I was so mad, and it threw everything off like 2 months. And then I had to start communicating with the land bank myself, but everything's good now.
I'm so happy you are at a purchase agreement. Goodness. Yeah. I know it's been a journey.
Oh yes.
And I mean, listen, we've been at this for over 10 years, streamlining the land purchase process and prior to me coming to the city, we're beating our head up against the wall trying to get information. We started the Black Farmer Land Fund just to like support people and navigate. So we're actually at a point much further along than we have been. So I can kind of see I can see the I can see the trajectory, but I know it's still very disappointing and we still have a long way to go. So yeah, hopefully with us being at the city now, there's some headway we can make on making this process even easier.
Yeah. You ready for me to launch into like a million questions?
I'm ready. And I'm put the QR code, just a reminder, the land-based projects team which includes DLBA, the Detroit Land Bank Authority, BC, water department, planning and development are all in the same room. So it's a great place to get your like kind of specific questions answered too. So if you want to just take a picture of that, and you can just jump right on the call. You don't have to register every first Thursday. But go ahead if you have a question, Mia, and I also see your hand up, Karen, as well.
Okay, my first, because I read my entire purchase agreement,
Good.
and when I was reading it, it says I can't close on more than 9 parcels within any 365-day period without the approval of the city council prior to the release of interest being recorded. But because I'm always trying to snake around things, what that says to me is that I can start the process to get more land, but I just can't
Close.
close on it. So I could apply for 9 more lots this year. I just can't get the release of interest for both in the same year.
I read it like that too.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I like that. You know I'm trying to buy that block.
By the block.
Okay, my second question is if I have 9 lots and my dad gets 9 lots and he puts both of our names on it, does that count in the same year as me getting more than 9 lots, even though it has someone else's name on it as well?
That's a question I cannot answer. But you could have your dad purchase it and sell it to you after he's on the process.
Oh no, absolutely. My whole family in on this now. Okay, one random question about ordinances, because I just looked up the Detroit ordinance codes.
Yep.
It says that the orchard is like 10 or more fruit trees or nut trees. So
Mhm.
shrubs and bushes are fine. I
Yeah.
can have like as many as bet. Okay, bet.
Mhm. Mhm.
Okay, and
Yeah.
I can also apply for unlisted land bank properties.
Can you apply for unlisted land bank properties? Yes.
Okay.
Through the projects portal. And you
Yeah.
can see, again, they may or may not sell it to you. It may not be available, but you can try.
Okay. Can we own land in Detroit and not live in Detroit? I think that's a yes, right?
Yes.
And can you also apply
Plenty
for
of
the black?
those. Ask Cindy
Oh,
Lane.
annoyingly so. Can you also apply for the Black Farmer Land Fund and not live in the city of Detroit?
You know, it has happened.
Okay.
Period.
And my last 2 questions. One
Oh,
of
can
them
I just
is
add a caveat to that last one? Is that,
absolutely.
we definitely look at each application, and so it definitely helps if you have a connection to the city. You know what I'm saying? So you
Yeah,
live in
no,
what you work
it's
in the
just my
city.
dad.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, and then I was reading this somewhere, I don't remember, but can you just explain the tax exemption? Because I keep seeing it, it's like that 50-50 or something like that tax exemption for a 5-year period.
Yeah.
You could get
Yeah.
it waived or not.
Okay, so it is complex. Hold on, I do have it on the slide. And please, anybody chime in because I actually haven't answered this question in a long time. But so if you know the answer, but there was so the land bank captures taxes to help fund the land bank. They capture taxes, and that was recently put in. So I say within the last 5 years. So, they have a legal arrangement where they can capture taxes. And so, how does that go? Here's the slide. So you have to get a waiver from the land bank basically to a waiver of those taxes to sell within the first 5 years or to, let me not say it wrong. Yeah, hang on. I have some information. If anybody else has some, please chime in. But this is the 50/50 tax waiver, and I have some notes on it. Let me just look them up.
Yeah, I guess I'm confused. Like, obviously, I'm gonna pay the taxes, but is it just saying they directly get that tax money, or is it doubly taxed?
It's not doubly taxed. They just have a right to collect. But it does preclude you from, like, say you had a parcel a long time ago, and then within the last 5 years you purchased, they won't combine them without waiving that tax capture.
Oh, okay, okay. Because I
Oh,
want to combine.
so it comes into play in different like scenarios like that.
Okay.
Um, yeah, I'm looking it up, and when I get the right vernacular, I will. Um, let's see. Here it is. Okay. I was right about one part. There was one part I missed. I'm gonna drop the language in the chat. Lots to learn. Y'all, I've been on a learning the last couple years. I've been learning. And where's my chat?
I see we do have a hand raised. So when Mia's done her question, we're gonna go next to Karen. Karen,
Okay, I
go
just
to
have one last question.
Brittany.
How I think we've talked about this before, but I would love to get a first right of refusal, however that's possible.
Yeah, I gotta figure that out.
Okay.
I don't know if that's possible, but I can. Have you jumped on the land-based projects? Maybe one of them will know how to, if that's possible from the land bank. I think you would have to like enter an option agreement, but I don't know the logistics of it.
It seems
Okay.
like to me that right of refusal, they talked about that for the last 20 years. Uh, to me, it's like some double talk. Like, like, okay, first right of refusal. Okay, so when someone wants some property and then whoever dies or whatever, or the person who they pretended the person was really a real person, and then so I don't know anyone in the 20 years I've been here who won first right of refusal. It seemed like it was an antiquated rule that is not
I know
really
one,
enforced.
Miss Lane, I know one, and that was, and this is kind of the reason why I headed down this pathway, was I used to live over in the Hants Farms neighborhood, and when
Yeah.
they got their purchase deal, they got first right of refusal a mile out of their project, which included my property that I had been growing on and stewarding on. So technically, he could have purchased it before me, and that's when I got into all of this. Yeah,
And he still have a bunch of trees that he's done absolutely nothing with. He's
yeah.
just land
So
banking.
I want to go ahead and take Karen because you've been patiently
I
waiting.
know.
Sorry, Karen.
Okay, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Thank you. I have
Mhm.
a couple of things. So, the property that I'm that I put the acquisition on is from my neighborhood that I grew up in Conant Gardens. And, so the piece of property that I wanted to go for, just the house just got torn down, which is the one I grew up in. So because that wasn't available, I put out an acquisition for the two next door. So now I'm in the process. They sent me the purchase agreement. Excuse me. So I started around October last year. They just sent me the purchase agreement, but in my acquisition, I put in there how my dad was a pillar in the community. He fed the community. He was a chef. So, and I'm going to do a community garden because I'm opening up an early childhood education center. And so I put that in there with the name of my center, Little Melodies Early Learning and Childcare. It's just one time I mentioned it. When they sent the purchase agreement, it was sent in Little Melody's name. So right now I'm waiting for them to change it to my name, and I'm wondering why they did that. And I was wondering if it's because it has to be a business, and I don't think it has to be a business. I think it can be in my name, who is the person who's requesting the land. And so there's like 3 or 4 plots next to these that are in the land bank. And I asked earlier if I was able to, do I have to close on these two in order to be able to start the process on the rest of them? Because I want to get that whole area and do like a meeting space, garden. I talked to some neighbors. And so I'm in the process of applying for the farm fund, the Black Farm Fund. And I'm on the part where I'm just downloading everything that I need to, with like my infrastructure document that says all the costs of everything, the dirt, and all that stuff. So I have a question about that. My question is, can I apply for land for the grant? Can I apply for the land and the infrastructure in this application, or do I have to do either or? And it's not really infrastructure is the like tool shed and the tools and stuff considered infrastructure? Or because I don't have a building on my plot plan. I just have like the stumps, and I made it simple, like you said, to do, so that if I didn't have those things when they wanted it, I wouldn't be held accountable for it. So should I put infrastructure on that application for the farm grant if I really don't have a lot of infrastructure? And on my, there's like a couple question thing. I'm sorry, I'm trying to, and then on my purchase agreement, there were like some parcel fees. And I kind of didn't go through it meticulously because the name was wrong, and I wanted to see if I can get a change before I even got into it, the details but I did go through it and saw like different fees, and it's pretty legal. The verbiage is legal, very, very legal, verbiage in there. So I didn't want to miss anything and agree to something that I probably couldn't afford, like, all these fees, because it kind of looks like there's additional monies requested. And my last question is, where do I purchase insurance for the plots, like for the land, for liability?
I got you, Karen. I done wrote down all the questions.
Okay, thank you so much.
All right, so you asked about the name on the actual deed, and unless you purchase through the Creative Project Program, which is, I said, specifically for neighborhood-based organizations. If you purchase through the projects portal, just filled out the application, it sounds like it. If you got a purchase agreement, then you can definitely, you should be able to put it in either your name or your business name, whatever is your preference. And so, yes, that's a good flag. Like I said, make sure you read that purchase agreement, because I've seen mistakes, I've seen different stuff in there. So make sure you read it. And the Black Farmer Land Fund has a lawyer working pro bono with us. So if you would like support with your purchase agreement and reading it, let me know.
Oh, yeah.
The infrastructure question, yes, you can apply for infrastructure. Is probably not the best use of the word, because you can basically, we want to be liberal and with the money, basically. So please apply for what you need, and the committee will review it. Parcel fees, yes, you will have on your deposit, like I mentioned, you'll do a deposit first, and that's like $500, and then they'll do a title search fee, which I think is like $200. And so
Right.
you'll
Right, I
have,
saw that.
that's a totally legit, that's actually a new fee where they are like requiring the land bank to do a title search. But I actually think it's good, it is a little bit more money, but I think it's good that I have confidence when you're purchasing it, that, you know what I'm saying, that you won't have any title issues, so, the $200 to do a title search. And that's where, they might come and say, hey, we found something, shady in the chain of custody, and inform you that you'll need to quiet title. That means you'll need to have a judge say, this is your title, period. You know what I'm saying? And, nobody can contest that. And that costs $1,000, and that is a more of a time thing. And so that is like the chance you take, but at the end of the day, you don't want anybody to come back and tell you that you can't do it. So it's a requirement now. So that's what those fees are. In terms of insurance, you want to just get some kind of liability insurance. There's I have a small business. I use Next Insurance, but there's a couple of different companies, so I don't want to like, just zero in on
Endorse.
one. But
Yeah. Mhm.
but that's what I use in my business basically. And that's a pretty easy online application.
And
I-
so when I apply for the grant, should I just add all those fees in there too?
you could
The 200, and then what was the other fee? Is that a definite
the
fee?
deposit and then the title, quiet title.
Yeah, is that a
You,
definite?
you can put it in there. We'll review your application and review everything you put in there, but we did like put some set aside money for people who run into title issues. So just know that. I also want to say just vocally that the Black Farmer Land Fund, if you're interested in applying, we have some set aside funds for Latinx farmers and indigenous farmers as well. And so just I wanted to put that on your mind, a solidarity fund that we have.
Do you have anything for early childhood education farms? You probably had
Um,
training. I'm sure you have training and help.
yes, KGD has a program for that, and Naja can talk to the early child care program probably better than me.
Thank you so much.
Easy.
Yep, absolutely. Imani, I see a hand up for you. Or Naja, did you want to speak to the early child care? I saw you come
I
up.
was gonna say I can connect her with Sterling. Sterling is the one who leads our early childhood education program, and she does come out and do programming, she'll set up like garden boxes and different activities for the children. So I can share her email with you. What was that again? I'm sorry.
That
Uh,
was Karen.
Karen,
Oh, it's
Karen,
Karen. Okay.
Karen
Yep.
Vesperini.
I'll share her email with you.
Thank you so much.
Mhm. I didn't get the email of the person who asked about the creator project fencing, but if you got that, if you can send it to me.
Okay.
All right, Imani.
Yes, hi, greetings everyone. Just first thank y'all so much for this webinar. It's just incredible information. It's like learning so much. My question was, I'm looking to acquire properties from my childhood home in Highland Park. And I know you mentioned that Highland Park is a different sort of like process, because I had been looking online to try to, look up foreclosed properties or things like that in Highland Park, and I found it to be not so straightforward.
Right, you think Detroit is hard. Highland Park is a whole nother animal.
It is.
We have some, friends and partners who have gone through the process in Highland Park. And so if you want to email Patrice, she can connect you with some of those partners.
Okay, that'd be rad.
Mhm.
And just to clarify, you mentioned that the Detroit Black Farmer Land Fund can offer acquisitional support, like pending, so basically, like in applying, we don't have to have the property in our possession to apply, or is
Correct. No,
okay?
yeah, correct. You can apply, and you will get awarded for land or infrastructure.
Got it. Okay. Thank you so much.
Yep. And you got that link, right?
The link
to the application. Everybody should get that.
Yeah, I think I got a whole bunch of links.
Okay.
I didn't have the Black Farmer link.
Okay, let me pull that up while you guys are.
Patrice. Okay, I got your email address. Okay, so I'll just
put my email in the chat, and then I did put the Black Farmer Land Fund link in there too.
Okay.
But I'll put it in there again. And then don't forget, guys, you can save the chat. Like, it's these 3 dots in the corner of the chat. If you pull up the chat, if not, we can also resend these. Nasha will send them in the email, the slides, but hold on, I'm gonna put this back in there. Paste. And sorry, my video is not working. I thought my video was working, but it's not. Yeah.
No problem. I got, let me see. Okay.
I put the
Okay, I see the land fund. Okay.
yeah. And then you can, when you click the land fund link, you want to go to apply. And then there's two ways you can get the application. You can click on apply online at the bottom of that page, or you can download it and then it should allow you to like be able to print it if you don't have the option to do it online.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right, Naja, we good to go, or we got more, a couple more?
Looks like we're good to go.
All right,
Yes.
KGD, y'all showed out and asked all the good questions.
Oh, yes.
Yep, love y'all. Let's get this land, and we got this.
Thanks a lot, T.
All right, take care, everybody.
All right, thank you for all the information.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. Peace.
Peace, gratitude.
Can I ask one more thing?
I think they left off already.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Have a great day.
You too.
Bye-bye.